This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 99.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's going on, Benny?
Not
How
too
are you
much.
doing this fine night?
Indeed, I am doing well, thank you. Very at peace in this quiet evening.
So where is it colder, here or Minnesota?
It is. I would say it's actually a little bit colder over here. Minnesota was quite. It was pretty warm. It was around 5 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Maybe like 40, 35. I don't know.
Well, if anybody wants to give us crap on our Minnesota accent, please do so in the comments section. But more importantly, we have a repeat guest today, Chris White, the author of The 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers. He was on the show, 95. It is late at night, at least for me. And we talked about his book, The 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers, and we went through all the 6 habits.
And
I don't know how. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, to what you just said there, we talked to all the 6 habits, but yeah, one show really wasn't enough. For those of you that listen in on that, we kind of skimmed the surface on so many cool topics, and there's so much more that we could have dove into, which really warranted this discussion today.
Yeah, and I think all three of us wanted to get back together. First off, it was just fun to talk to Chris, right? And I enjoy our dynamic with Chris, and we wanted to talk about one. We selected one of them, and I feel like the main habit that we should all focus on is discovery, because discovery leads to almost everything else. If you have a bad discovery, you're gonna do a bad demo and
Absolutely.
a bad proof of concept, bad technical close. So we chose discovery, and that's what this interview is all about. We just skimmed the surface a little bit more deeply, and let's just leave it at that. And you guys get to listen to our conversation with Chris White.
Enjoy.
Good morning, Chris. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
We enjoyed talking to you so much that we asked you back within the same month. It hasn't been a month since we recorded the last podcast.
I'm flattered. I'm flattered beyond words. So very, very good to be with you. And hey, Benny, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Thank you. Likewise. Doing well. Thanks. How are you?
Good.
Excellent.
Awesome. So I finished your book. Loved it.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have every Saturday I take my son and my nephew to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I basically have half hour of reading the book.
Awesome.
So it took me a couple of sessions that I highly recommend it. It's it has a complete package of basically what you need as a sales engineer. And it's not like I'm not affiliated again, but I love the John Kerr Mastery Technical Sales book.
Yeah.
But that is more like a pick your chapter study guide, whereas your book is more of like the basics of sales engineering. Well, maybe not the basics of, but sales engineering, how to understand it. So I really enjoyed the book. Thank you for.
No, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. And if I may, I mean, I'm obviously very well familiar with John's work, John Kerr's work, and his book is great. I mean, his work is great. His book is more textbook-like. And in fact, I had somebody ask me recently, how does my book differ from his? And simply, what I said is mine's intended to be more conversational. It's intended to be an easier read,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I hope anybody who has John's book would consider my book as just a nice supplement, to what they've already read. And of course, anybody who's new to the profession, new to the field, I think, it would be sort of a good way to start. So.
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, I believe we should read any book that we can get our hands on.
Absolutely.
Right. And because even though John Kerr covers a lot of different things, you cover some of the same things, but also some different stuff. But even from within the same material that we're covering, you have a different way of approaching it.
Yeah.
Right? And otherwise, I would have had one podcast and one episode and we're done.
Exactly.
Right. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, enough gushing about your book.
Well, it's
Loved
nice
it, but enough
yes.
gushing. You have a lot of topics in your book, but for me, the most important topic that always comes down to it, which is kind of counterintuitive to most sales engineers, is the discovery. Almost everybody focuses on the demo, not enough focus on the discovery.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start really basic. and define what a discovery is.
Interesting. Well, I certainly have my definition. I'll play, I'll turn the tables a little bit. What's your definition of discovery?
Benny?
How do you define it? He's deferring. I think he's officially deferring.
No, that's okay. What is my definition of discovery?
Well, just to preface this, Benny doesn't do a lot of discovery as part of his job. So I am interested in seeing what an SE who doesn't do discovery think it is.
So we're actually starting to a little bit more. So it's kind of cool. It's a good little test question for where we're getting into. I would say it's pretty much uncovering all of those unknowns, maybe some of those known unknowns as well, that are required to present your solution in the best way to deliver value to what they're looking for. I think, like, in its essence, that's probably all it is, right? You're just finding out information so that you could, present your solution the best way you can, or solve their solution the best way you can.
Yeah. I mean, I think in its simplest form, that's exactly what it is. Of course, I have plenty of thoughts before I share. Ramzi, do you have any other thoughts, to add on to Benny?
So basically, I can't defer this one because you're calling me by name. Well, discovery is basically, my definition of discovery is trying to understand the business needs of a customer and try to figure out in your mind, without solutioning on the first date, a product that you can actually provide. And then once you correlate that in your head, you can start digging into more questions to guide the customer towards that solution.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's spot on. If I may, I'll even take a half a step back. And why did it even become part of sort of my framework, and why did it become, something that I started doing? What I realized reasonably early in my career as a sales engineer was that initially I was not doing discovery, and I would just go into, I think we even talked about this in our last conversation. I think there was part of it that I had such a big ego that I could just go in. I was such an expert that I could go in sight unseen, right? And just turn on a dime and be the smart guy in the room. And what I discovered very quickly, no pun intended, is that I was actually walking, I was fooling myself, and I was actually walking into situations that I was not prepared for. And what I discovered is that I needed to do my own technical, what I refer to as technical discovery. You mentioned John Kerr. I know John refers to it more as business discovery. At the end of the day, it's discovery in the context of what do we need to, to present, right, to get the sale. But I needed to do that discovery myself and not either just count on my own brilliance or, frankly, count on the information that I was getting from my sales counterpart. Because what I was discovering is I was relying on what they told me. They'd say, I need you to come and do a demo of this. Great, no problem, got it. Go in and do the demo. And then I'd find out that they didn't actually ask the questions that I would have asked at the level of specificity or detail that I would have asked. And this is what I discovered, is that had I asked certain things and known certain things before the demo, it would have changed the way I delivered the demo. It would have changed what I presented. It would have changed how I prepared. And so my definition of technical discovery, and this is, I think, one of the mistakes that people make, and we'll talk about this, is I want to have the opportunity to determine what I need to say, show, and do to get the technical win. No more and no less. One of the mistakes we do is we try to figure out all the information, right? And we shoot beyond just getting the technical win. So again, I'll pause there. That's sort of my definition, is it's the opportunity to determine what is it that we need to say, show, and do to get a technical win.
Yeah, fair enough. Make sense? No, it certainly does. I would say there's probably a couple of things that'd be cool to unpack from that, but maybe just quickly speaking to, you not having done your own discovery for a while and then eventually moving into it. That's an experience that I could very much relate to, because as Ramzi mentioned, I mean, traditionally didn't really do too much discovery myself either, kind of relied on the sales rep and maybe even the business development rep and the notes that they wrote on the initial interaction. But there came a number of times where eventually I kept on hearing the same types of things from the prospect that hadn't been uncovered necessarily by the sales rep or by the BDR. And maybe just by virtue of us reaching out and speaking to so many different types of customers, and maybe this is more unique in those relationships when you don't have the one-to-one relationship with an AE, because you're speaking to so many different types of customers beyond what that particular AE is doing. Eventually just came to be where, you know what, maybe actually I know a little bit more about the technical situation or the technical stack of these companies than the actual AE does, or the account manager. So maybe it is the onus of the sales rep or the sales engineer to find out all the information required for technical win. So yeah, I've started to do that a little bit more myself, and it is quite helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we shouldn't expect our sales counterparts to know everything and know all the questions that we would ask, right? It's really not necessarily their job. Just like they wouldn't expect us to be worried about everything that they need to be worried about in order to close the business, right? So I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, it's really taking ownership of that part of the sale, right?
Sure. So I want to dig in a little bit deeper. Benny is not the only SE who's seen that, and some companies have that as a process where sales rep does a discovery and the SE comes and does a demo, and probably does a discovery during the demo because he didn't have the correct information or all the information.
Yeah.
How would you recommend to that sales engineer to change that? Like Benny's changing that right now, but maybe that's part of the company's initiative. But if the company doesn't have that initiative, what can an SE do to change that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and frankly, it's not an easy one to answer. There's no doubt. And again, if I may, I'd like to just take a half a step back. Let's ask ourselves why that condition exists to begin with, right? Why is it that sales folks want to do the discovery, right? Or why do they not want to have the sales engineer do some discovery? And I've heard a number of different reasons, right? One of the reasons is they don't want the customer or the prospect to feel like they're being asked to answer the same questions over and over, right? They don't want to feel like, okay, we're just taking them through another set of questions, which actually is a valid point, right? I think sometimes they feel like that's their role, right? And our job is just to do what they say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So part of it, you know, as you guys well know, habit number one in my framework is the partnership, right? So it really starts with a foundation of having a solid relationship, right? And partnership. But to answer your question directly, how would a sales engineer go about it? I think it starts by after a sales demonstration or meeting or conversation, if you've identified, boy, there are some things that I could have known, or there are some things that I would have done differently had I had known in advance, right? That would have made a difference. I think that's the opportunity to go back to the salesperson and say, you know what, how would you feel about me having the opportunity to just ask a few questions when you're doing some discovery that will help me create a better demo and deliver a better demonstration experience, right, in advance, because these are the things that I would do differently, and I think it'll help us sell more. I think if you appeal to sales in terms of what they want most, right? What do they want most? They want to close business, right? They want to close business. I think if you tie it back to, it's almost a help me help you kind of scenario. Let me pause. Does that answer the question, Ron? Yeah.
From what I understand from you right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're basically sacrificing an opportunity to use it as an example or a lesson learned with your, or like if you already had it in the past, don't sacrifice a new one. Just use whatever you have.
Exactly. I mean, look, there are some times where we have to use failed deals as an opportunity to improve the process. So yes. Now, am I saying let's intentionally do that? Absolutely not. But if you're in that situation now, it's an opportunity to say, you know, and maybe it's just a conversation of, if I knew these things before going in, it would help me prepare a better demo. And again, like, to me, that's the difference. That's the one thing I always ask people. In fact, I did a workshop in Arizona last week. I said, let's remember that it's not just about getting the information. It's understanding, how am I going to do different, do the demo differently, or what am I going to do differently in the context of that demo as a result of that information?
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is nothing, then that information is somewhat irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
At this point in the game, right? The question is, how does it change the way we present and demonstrate? And is that going to produce a different result? Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. I would say it even ties a lot to this idea of just taking pride in your work as well. At least I would say that was probably the main driving factor for me, this idea of that, I'm doing my demos, sure, maybe without all the discovery that's required, but goodness, I could do so much better if I actually ask the questions I want to ask. And just based upon my knowledge, let me just get the knowledge that I need to deliver that amazing demo, so I could be even more proud of my work. And I wonder what your opinion is on this idea. And I think you've kind of already spoken to it, but I believe during a previous show, you kind of spoke about how in answering a question, how do you say no to a sales rep? It's almost, you have to earn the right to do so. So similarly, to ask your own discovery questions and to give salespeople the confidence that you're the person to do that, would you almost have to say you have to earn the right to do that? And does that take time, or could that just be something that you could just say straight up, hey, this is kind of the information that we need. Does it make sense for me to ask this right away, and then go from there?
Yeah. So you said a lot of really good things there, Benny. So I just want to sort of pick it apart a little bit. I mean, you talked about pride, so there's no doubt. I mean, a big part of it is just taking pride in your work. Yes, I think part of it is earning that respect, but there's another word that came to mind while you were speaking, and that's humility. It's the ability to have the humility when maybe a demo doesn't go particularly well. It's having the humility to say, you know what, I feel badly because I'm not sure I put my best foot forward, or I'm not sure I put our best foot forward. And part of the reason is because I didn't have some of the insight that I would have needed in order to put our best foot forward. You know what I mean? So to me, I think you go to virtually any salesperson with sort of that attitude of, look, I know that wasn't our best stuff, but I can do better if I'm given more information. I think that's gonna remove barriers. I think that's gonna, open people up to have a conversation. Does that resonate with you, Ben?
Yeah, very much so. I agree 100%.
So the other thing that you mentioned, and I'm inspired to just share this, you said something about asking questions. So a very good friend of mine works for Aslan Sales Training, and one of their favorite taglines is, why assume when you can know? So ask. It's so simple, but it's so true. I'll say it again. Why assume when you can know? So ask, right? And that's really what we're saying. Let's not go into a meeting, to me, the opposite is to go in blindfolded, right? I don't want to go in sort of, with a plan to roll the dice a little bit. So, amen. Those are my thoughts.
It's a good mantra for life. I like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just have a couple of comments. And it's not questions. It's just, I want to point out something. Like, you just talked about humility, and previously you talked about, like, all right, we didn't have a good demo. We can go and talk with our account reps and work it out with them. And unfortunately, I went the other route where, like, yeah, I had pride of work, but I didn't go out with humility. I got out with anger. It's like, you said this, you said that, and I approached it. So just all I'm saying is that for those SEs who are out there, just to be careful the way you talk to account managers. I got lucky that my account manager was, I guess, professional enough to handle my anger, but it doesn't happen in any way. Like, I wasn't really happy about the fact that I got the wrong information. I did the bad demo. I looked bad. I, instead of humility about, hey, I could have done better, and talked about it in a different way. But, maybe that worked in my favor as well. And he never asked me to do a demo without a discovery again.
Yeah, it probably speaks to that first point in Chris's book as well. This idea of having a strong partnership. So long as you have a good relationship with your AE, then the way that you go about it is always going to differ a little bit. Just so long as it's good with your AE and you.
Yeah. Well, lucky for me, I only had one AE.
Right.
I didn't work with 3 or 4, so we were always together, and we were able to talk about things in like a brotherly fashion. So if I get mad at him, I tell him I'm mad at you. But could I have handled it better? Yes, with humility. I didn't go that route. I went the anger route, which I don't know. Maybe shouldn't have done that, but it worked out in the end. It might have ended up badly too. So just keep that in mind.
Well, I mean, frankly, it's big of you to even, acknowledge that in a forum like this, but we've all been there, right? We've all, responded with frustration and anger. And that's why it's a learning process.
Yeah.
It really is.
Benny, did you have a question?
Nope. No, go ahead.
All right. So we've touched about why discovery is important. I've had someone ask me, like, how do we do discoveries via email? Is that something you'd even consider?
Interesting. I guess in a last resort, maybe. And let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying like in an email exchange between a customer or a prospect and myself?
Yeah. So the question was, and I'm sure our answers are going to be similar, but he basically did a discovery, like he'd send a question, the customer would respond. And then it's like, no, that's not my question. This is my question. Or he'd have a follow-up to that question. So it kept going back and forth to the point where the customer's manager said, all right, enough questions. We're done. Wow. So basically they lost the deal by doing a discovery over the email.
So, I mean, that's a unique, it sounds like a bit of a unique situation. The thought that came to mind when you asked about the email, if I were to have, I can imagine if I were to have an email exchange or two with a prospect and it was sort of still in the discovery phase, I would be after maybe the second or third email exchange, I'd be very inclined to, in my email, say, can we just schedule a call to have a conversation?
Yep.
So I would not try, personally, I would not try to carry on this conversation, like an actual discovery conversation over email. And one of the things that I've told many of the sales folks that I've worked with, and I might have even said this last time I visited with you guys, is if a prospect is not willing to spend 30 minutes on the phone with the person who's actually going to demonstrate a solution for them, they're not going to spend $100, $200, $500K, $1 million with you on a solution if they're not willing to give 30 minutes to the individual who's actually going to present the solution. Right? Is there
a limit? Sorry, is there a limit to how many 30 minutes you can spend on a discovery?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think one of the things I tell people is like we have to do our due diligence, right? I mean, first of all, when we get on a discovery call, we can't ask the same questions that have already been asked. And we can't be asking for information that we as a team already have. So it's on me to make sure that I talk to the salesperson and say, well, help me understand what we do know, right? What is the project? Who are the players? What's the timeline, right? I'm not going to get on and ask basic dumb questions that have already been answered, right?
Right.
Now, that being said, the way I like to open is I'll say, let's say my sales counterpart is someone named Matt. I'll say, Matt's told me a little bit about the project. So fundamentally, I understand you're trying to do this, but since I'll be the person actually presenting the solution to you, I'd just love to hear it in your own words, what you guys are trying to do. Maybe just a quick summary and position that way. I've never had somebody not want to tell me about what they're trying to do. And incidentally, normally it's not 30 seconds. Normally it's 10 minutes.
Right.
What do people love doing?
Right. So the reason I'm asking,
right?
Yeah. The reason I was asking is basically if you're working for like a big company like Cisco, like we had a gentleman on last week or the week before, and he works for Cisco and he's a generalist SE with a focus. And then they have specialist SEs, virtual SEs. And it's similar in kind of my company as well, my previous company, where we'd end up doing a discovery call, and then we'd have to get a specialist in, and then because they're the ones who are doing the demo, they want to do their own discovery call. And then, we want the PM to get involved because you're asking for a feature that's coming up next. So now the PM wants to do their own discovery call. How do you manage like the customer going through so many different discovery calls over the same topic?
I think, again, I'm going to refer to my friends at Aslan Training. One of the things that they talk about is customers don't like feeling blindfolded. They don't like feeling like they're being led down some path, and they don't understand why they're going through, like in this case, why do I have to go through so many phone calls? Why is it take? So if we know that that's our process, and if we know that there's 4 or 5 people, and may very well be 4 or 5 different kind of discovery calls along the way, the person who sort of is at the top of that opportunity or that top of that engagement can set those expectations up front. Look, I just want to help you. I just want you to understand how we operate. This is a big solution, got a lot of people involved, and there might be a number of steps along the way. And there may very well be a number of people that would just like to kind of understand, they're part of it. Are you going to be okay if we have a couple of discovery calls along the way, right? Sure, no problem. I mean, yes, it's a big solution, and I get that, right? And then every person that comes in says, I know this is a big process. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to be as efficient with your time as possible, right? We manage those expectations. Does that make sense, Ramsey?
Yeah, it does make sense. And that's generally what we try to do. Sometimes it doesn't end up working because we don't know that there are so many, like we are surprised by the fact that we need so many discovery calls too, right? Because I'm not a specialist in LTE, for example. And the customer asked me a question about LTE. All right, let me get the SE, and then it just escalates. So then we manage it on case-by-case basis. But if I am aware that at least, hey, you're asking me about LTE, I might have to get somebody else involved as well for the next meeting. Is that okay? But yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's about. I really do. I think it's a balance. I don't think there's an exact one size fits all, but I think as long as the conversations, the meetings are kept within the context of we're just trying to understand, what we need so that we can present a meaningful solution to you, right? And as long as we approach it as, look, my goal is to help you as a, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, make a good decision, right? We're just trying to provide you with the necessary information to help you make the best decision possible. And the only way we can do that is by understanding what it is that you're looking for and trying to do, right? So it's a bit of a dance. I wish it was like a one size fits all, like this is the model, but all solutions are different. I do think it has to do with the size and complexity of the solution, right? The bigger and more complex the solution and the sale, the more we may have to go through the process.
Maybe even just to kind of touch on that idea too of maybe speaking to those siloed organizations or larger organizations that may have departments or business units as part of silos that you then need to do your own individual discovery with each of them. At least in my experiences when that's taken place, it's been kind of cool because not only do you kind of get some of the unique perspectives of each particular silo, but he also uncovers some other issues that you wouldn't necessarily have found out had you only spoken to one or another. So mostly maybe around the centralization of information perhaps, or the communication between silos and understanding those specific pain points beyond just let's say the interconnected pain points beyond just the individual siloed pain points. We found that to be pretty effective as well.
Exactly. I think that's really good. And Benny, something you said just sort of triggered this thought, and that is, I think the way in which we approach it also makes a big difference. Does it feel, do our prospects and customers feel like they're just being peppered with questions, and that my only motivation in asking those questions is self-serving? Or do they feel like I'm really just trying to have a conversation with you guys for your benefit? And if I, as a prospect, feel that way, I'm sorry, but I just don't think people are going to get tired. I don't think people are going to get frustrated with that process if I feel like you're sincerely trying to help me.
That makes sense. I do want to ask a quick question, maybe even a follow-up from that topic as well, but also from the emails when we're kind of exchanging maybe emails to ask questions all the time. Is there perhaps a distinction between qualification and discovery there? So say qualifying a particular demo versus discovering all the information. Is email maybe a better method for qualification, and then the actual discovery is something that does require a little bit more of a closer touch point? So maybe
maybe, and I'm the first to admit I'm probably not the most, again, pardon the pun, I'm probably not the most qualified person to articulate the specific differences between qualification and discovery. But my sense, my perception is that qualification is more at the 50,000 foot level. When I was working for a company where we sold enterprise architecture, we had a lady on the team who did most of our qualification, like initial qualification, and she was great at it. And basically the qualification process was, do you understand we're enterprise architecture and business process modeling and not, a data warehousing company? You know what I mean? Like, do you understand just fundamentally who we are and what we do, and does what you're trying to do sort of align with what our solutions are at a very high level? That was sort of the qualification. And then qualifying in terms of you actually have a team and you're not, an independent looking for a new job or something, you know what I mean? It's sort of like a high level sniff test. So yeah, I mean, I would think that probably could happen through email. Again, I think I'll say in most cases, I think direct communication, verbal communication is hard to replace with email. That's just my general opinion.
Makes sense.
I would agree with that. Generally speaking, qualification is basically the BANT or whatever other acronym they come up with, like the budget, authority, timing, and I don't know what the N stands for.
Timing.
Timing, but N.
Negotiation. Need.
That's right. So yeah, and it's not generally as something that SEs do. Yeah. From my experience, like I've had to help my account manager do that, but I haven't had to do it myself. From my perspective, could be
well, and I think it's something that we should at least ask our salespeople when they come to us with a demo request, right? I think one of my first questions is just fundamentally, have we assessed, what are they trying to do? What kind of time frame are they on? Are we talking to the right people? Do we have any idea of what their budget is, right? So to me, that's sort of level one for, is now the right time to engage with me, on this engage or on this deal.
Yeah, like especially for global teams where like you have two SEs covering 600 account managers and they keep asking them to travel.
Yeah.
Like otherwise they will never come home. They will always be traveling. They'll be doing demos from the plane. I did have a question for Benny, if you don't mind, on our previous topic. You said now you're recently trying to go into doing more discovery calls yourselves. Why has that changed?
So I wouldn't say so much discovery calls versus just discovery on the calls that I'm on. Honestly, for me, it was the pride of work part of it, where after having spoken to so many different types of customers and prospects across different industries, sizes and whatnot, I just started seeing different patterns and started seeing different trends that, I don't know, maybe weren't institutionalized. And so just started asking questions that at first it was kind of in a light way, maybe asking some of the smaller organizations some testing questions, but then saw that those resonated very well and have since, carried that all the way up to the much larger organizations out there, where it seems to be that they're just scaled up versions of these small ones where they seem to have a lot of the same issues, resonate very well to the same types of questions. And in the end, like Chris mentioned, people like talking about their problems. So even if you're wrong about your assumption, like you said, don't assume no. They're pretty forthcoming with that information, and that just helped me deliver a better demo. So I've just continued.
Nice. And how, I feel like I'm interviewing Benny. How did your account managers feel about it?
They loved it. I mean, I've definitely earned the right, I think, quite a bit as well, and kind of like worked in the trenches and I've shown my value there. So anytime that they find that I'm able to do that, they love it. One particular experience, it's still a big source of pride for me. We have some sales reps here that have been around forever at the organization, and one of them in particular, probably easily one of the top performers, but also one of those people that the big source of pride for him is this idea that he does his own demos. So he may be a salesperson, sure, but he's really smart, very technical. He doesn't need people like us. And so there was a demonstration recently. He actually just invited me onto one later on this afternoon, but there was an invitation or a demo a few weeks ago where he kind of sat down with me and was like, hey, Benny, so I'm going to go and talk and kind of speak about everything. I just need you, to kind of click through and do what I'm saying. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Happy to be on your demo. And then maybe about 5-10 minutes into the entire thing, I expanded on a particular point and then asked a couple additional questions. And they were great. Well, I mean, I like to think they were great questions, to the point where the AE pretty much backed off for the rest of the call. And I just ran the rest of the demo, had the conversation as I wanted it to. And clearly he hasn't shunned me. So I'd say that it's resonated quite strongly with them.
Nice.
Good for you, man.
Thank
Well,
you.
and Benny, we were talking just a few moments ago about earning that trust. There you go. I mean, you're doing it. You're doing it in real time. That's fabulous. Good for you.
Thanks. Yeah,
Good job, Benny.
podcast has helped a lot. Not gonna lie.
Great.
All right, so going back to the topic at hand, generally speaking, we say don't solution on the first date. Like, don't try to provide a solution on the first discovery call. However, a lot of times, either if you're working through a channel partner or if the customer is kind of like really wants a solution, they generally ask you the solution on the first date. Like, oh, come and present your solution. We haven't done a discovery call. How do you manage that situation?
Yeah, I think, and you're really kind of touching on two of the biggest mistakes that I see, and that is when we do discovery, we do have the opportunity to discovery. We're problem solvers by nature, right? It's what we like to do, right? We're just wired that way.
Yep.
And so there's such a tendency to want to jump in and either start solving on the spot, right? We'll ask one question, we'll hear one thing, and we'll jump in with, oh, we have a great solution for that, right? And we start selling, right? Let me tell you about this product, and let me tell you about this, blah, 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 blah. Or we start solving, right? And part of what goes with that, I was saying this earlier, we ask questions that will lead to sort of information that affects sort of the entire project, but not necessarily the demo. You know what I mean? And they're the type of questions that once the customer signed up, we'll airdrop our paid consultants in, and they'll ask all these questions so that they can do a full implementation and rollout of the platform or the software or project or what have you, right? I think your question is, how do we avoid that? I think we have to stay very focused on the purpose of the meeting.
What if the customer is asking you a solution right then and there?
Interesting. I mean, personally, I don't get that too much, but I think when that happens, again, I think it's a balance. I think you sort of have to read the room and read the tea leaves, right? How much do they need to know right now, right? Versus how much can I say, so glad you're asking, at the 50,000 foot level, we do it this way. But rather than get into the depths, because it's obviously it's reasonably complex, and I don't want to burn too many cycles today. Time today, we'll be on site next week, so I'll be happy to show you the full solution, right? I think to a certain degree we have to manage that conversation, right? It's not easy. I mean, and by the way, in the workshop I ran last week, we were talking about this. They said that prospects will come into us and just say, we just want a demo. And sometimes we have to tell prospects, be happy to show you a demo, but before we do, we'll just ask some questions, and we kind of go through a process, right? I don't want to just show a demo. And there's another one of my favorite sayings. Can you guess why not? Why do I not want to just show them?
Sorry.
Well, from my perspective, you don't know what they want to see.
Yeah. We get one chance to make a first impression.
Right.
And I'll never get it back. No matter what the customer says, no matter what the prospect says, right? They might say, oh, well, we'll understand that it's not perfect. We'll understand that it doesn't really, it's not within our context. No, they won't. They won't. It's like going to look at a new house or going to look at a house for sale. And if it's dirty or it's messy or needs painting, some people can walk in the house and see it for what it could be. Most people can't.
So are you saying that the customer is not always right?
I'm saying that the customer doesn't always know what's in their best interest.
Ah, that's a politically correct answer. Okay.
But I'm being very, very sincere.
Yeah.
Part of our job is to help, a lot of the, Gartner and Sirius, they talk about not the seller journey or the sales journey, but the buyer's journey.
Yep.
Part of our job is to help buyers through the buyer journey, right?
Yep.
Part of our job is to help them not worry about things that they need not worry about to make the best decision, and help them focus on the things that they do need to worry about to make the best decision, right? That's part of our job. Does that make sense?
So I love the fact that you haven't seen that many times, the question of how do you not present or whatever. And I've seen it so many times, and you've answered pretty much the exact way that I answer. So you just off the spot, you without experience, you kind of figured out how to answer it. And that's like, that comes with experience as being a sales engineer. And obviously you've been in that role for a while. So you may not have seen that exact situation, but you've seen similar situations that you can actually come up with the answers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, I was going to quickly say that sometimes when people are asking these types of questions on the discovery call, sometimes all they're looking to do, similar to an RFP, is just check off the box. So to what you said, just to kind of show at a high level, hey, like, okay, sure, again, we could address this right now, but this would warrant a further discussion later. Typically is what a lot of these people are looking for on that discovery call, because they know the context of the rest of the call to get all this additional information. They're not going to want to be that person on their team that takes the entire conversation down a path. So being cognizant of where they're coming from, I think makes sense. And your answer is both Ramsey and Chris to that answer, or to that question rather, would satisfy that quite well. Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you.
Well, no, but let's take that thought a half a step further. I mean, some of what I'm looking for during the discovery call is, like, I can sometimes get a sense for how real is this opportunity, or how serious are they about finding a solution, right? Like, I may ask some questions, and sometimes I'll get on the, particularly when I was in the enterprise architecture space, like, it would basically become, buzzword bingo. And the person we were talking to just started rattling off all these kind of great theories and ideas and you just kind of got the sense that they actually have no intention of solving any problems. They really don't even understand what the problem is that they're trying to solve. So at that point, you're like, okay, I mean, and I'll tell my salesperson, like, here's my sense. My sense is either we're column fodder, or they're just sort of kicking the tires, and they don't really have a legitimate problem that they're trying to solve. Now, if you want to pursue this, it's my job to support you, and I'll do a demonstration, okay? But I'm telling you, just my gut as a technical expert, that unless there's somebody else involved that's really driving this project, these people are they're just kind of like, doing, it's almost like a science project, and I'm not sure anything's going to happen. Does that make sense, Benny?
It does, yeah. No, very much so.
And that's one of the things that we can find out during discovery. There's other things, and I actually wrote down a few notes before that. I mean, there's other things that we can and should be looking for during the technical discovery, right? One of the things is, in most cases, when we sell software, we really sell one of two different things, right? Either we sell products, right? Or we sell concepts, right? Again, I'll refer to enterprise architecture, that's my space. Particularly early on, there were some people that were brand new to enterprise architecture. They didn't understand it. They didn't know what it was. They didn't understand how it might help them. So when I was going into those meetings, the first part of the demo was not to talk about our solution. It was to talk about what's the value of enterprise architecture and why it's important, and how do organizations sort of use and benefit from enterprise architecture. And once we get there, now let me talk about why our solution is particularly unique, right? In other cases, I literally had a few CEOs or CIOs say to me, we're drinking the EA Kool-Aid. You don't have to help me understand that, but I just need to understand what's unique about your product, right? Well, that's the kind of thing that I can kind of tease out during the technical discovery, right? Where are they in sort of the decision kind of process evolution. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, you're definitely right. And it's definitely going to differ, like you're mentioning, and making sure you're speaking to what resonates to whom at whichever stage they're at is extremely important.
At the right level. Exactly.
Like I find that not as prevalent anymore because almost everybody brings in the sales team after they've done so much research themselves. Because generally speaking, not many people trust salespeople or sales, whatever, people in sales are not very trusted because of bad reputations of the minority. So people do their research and then you end up coming and then you have to fight that because, okay, maybe your education isn't exactly correct 100%. Like then it's a different set of challenges that you have there.
Yeah.
Actually, let's bring that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
I was going to quickly say that I think that's definitely something that could definitely warrant a whole other discussion. This idea of the industries you're coming from and the knowledge that prospects have prior to you coming in, because I hadn't considered that at all. And I'm coming from a space that's very niche, regulatory compliance. Not very many people know about that unless they're experts in it in some cases. And so we come in, or I guess we tend to come in with the benefit of not having to get that pushback as much, which is I guess entirely different from something maybe, well, obviously in Ramsey's space and maybe in your space as well, where the customers know a lot of information already. That's such an interesting dynamic.
It really is. I mean, and there's the whole challenger sale, and part of the question is, are you selling something that people they're not even aware of some of the problems that they may have, right? Yep. And if they're not, you have to start there, right? But if they understand the problems and they're reasonably familiar with the solutions and they're just trying to pick the right hammer, right? Well then, yeah, you don't need to do some of that background, right? So again, it really is based on kind of the space, the market or the vertical, right? So absolutely. By the way, this is also where the partnership with our sales counterpart is so important, right? Because what part of that what role do they play versus what we play in this part of the conversation, right? So God bless, by the way.
That makes sense. Awesome. So this is actually a pretty good, I guess, analogy to a degree, but the importance of discovery, all the information that you could get out of it. Clearly, there's so much. This conversation, I think, is a good example of that. Where here we are discovering all this about discovery, and we've kind of lost track of time, so we haven't been able to ask all the questions we want to. But we do have to move on to the not so fire round, which you already are a little bit familiar with. But so we have about 4 to 5 questions, and we'll spit them at you, and you can take your time and be as verbose as you like, which is all right, listeners. Thank you. So I'll take the first one, and then we'll just alternate from there. So I guess right now, what's one thing that you really love about your job right now? Where's one thing you really like to? Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, just to point out that you're kind of moving on and you're taking on consulting full time right now, Chris. Is that
right? So the last time we spoke, I think you would ask me, wait, Chris, you have a full-time job here, full-time job here, blah, blah, blah. So just recently made the decision to transition full-time into coaching consulting. Over the next, couple months, I'll be transitioning. So yes, the goal is for me to do this full-time, have conversations like this with you guys and training and consulting. So yeah, I'm jumping into the deep end of the pool.
Awesome. So go ahead, Benny. I just need to clarify that for those listening as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So what's one thing then that you really love about being a consultant and being out there and delivering so much value to so many different types of companies?
I think it's, well, I don't think I know. The thing that I love the most is just working with people, frankly, like you guys, other sales engineer leaders, talking through the challenges and the issues. I mentioned the workshop that I ran last week. I had a group of 20 engineers, and we covered a lot of ground in a one-day workshop, and they were energized and excited, and it just, this is I believe that the role of sales engineer is if not the one of the most satisfying and rewarding careers in business, certainly in software and software sales. I also believe it can be one of the most challenging. And I think there's the skills that we are required to develop don't come naturally for a lot of us. So that's what I get the most satisfaction out of, is just working with people to better understand kind of the challenges and perfecting the craft. So.
I do want to point out that you said that for sales engineering, there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the best part of sales engineering in general, because
yeah,
you're changing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
If someone wants routine, don't go into sales engineering.
Yeah. Yeah. No, these are also, and by the way, I mean, there's some fundamentals, right? I wrote about them in my book, obviously, the fundamentals, of this job that I believe, but I also believe that, it is absolutely, imperative for each one of us to bring our own personality to the job and be ourselves. I wouldn't expect anybody to try to emulate me and my style verbatim, because they're not me. You know what I mean? And like you mentioned that you got upset after, well, I mean, maybe that's, your personality is to be a little bit more, that's okay. I mean,
blunt.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, be yourself. If you're naturally quiet and if you're naturally low key, then deliver your demos in your natural state, right? If you're like me and you're an arm waver and and get all like worked up and wound up, then be energetic and wound up. I mean, I think you have to sincerely be yourself and bring your own personality to this job.
So you posted pictures on LinkedIn, which I'm going to post them on the show, of you giving that workshop, and people can see from just pictures how you like to wave your hands and like you're energetic on stage.
And my facial expression. I mean, I see certain pictures of me and I just think, what in the world was I saying in that moment? But we all have to, and to me, that's another aspect of this job that I like. There's very few jobs that give you the opportunity for that personal expression in that way. But at the end of the day, and that's why I love habit number 5, which is perform. At the end of the day, we're under the spotlight, and we can own that moment, and that's what I love about this job, right? It's on me now to deliver the message and in a compelling and engaging way, right?
Nice. So that brings us to the second question: is what would you change? What's one thing you would change about your job or career? Or
wow, I'm gonna have to admit that's a toughie. What would I change? If we're talking about just my career and the journey I've been on, it's taken me, being very, very transparent with you guys and our listeners, it's taken me longer to get to this point in my career than I thought it would. I've had the demo doctor dream for at least a decade, and it took me a long time to finally write the book, and then I finally did it. So probably if there's anything I might want to change is that. That being said, I also believe that every step along the journey and every step along the way is, it's an important step in the process, and you learn along the way. So if I were just talking to sales engineers or thinking about the role of sales engineer, if there's anything I'd like to see sales engineers do, it's maybe take themselves a little less seriously and think about the role as, like, at the end of the day, we are here to help. We are here to help customers make better decisions. We are here to help our sales counterparts generate and close business, right? And there is no, like, if you, like, to your point, if you want that job, like, everything kind of has to fit in this square box, like, that doesn't work. Every customer is different, every opportunity is different, every demo is going to be different, every day is going to be different, right? And that's the world we live in. So anyway, so those are my thoughts.
Fair. Super insightful. I guess also maybe ties in well to this next question as well. So everything needs to be different, including maybe content of the podcast. Last time you mentioned a few resources to check out on, particularly obviously your book, The 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers, but then also that ties in well to the Stephen Covey book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Spoke also about the what not to say on the demo show as to great resources that would be really helpful for any SE or maybe even budding SE consultant to get into. What would you say now, maybe on this appearance on the show? What are some additional resources even beyond that you'd recommend?
So, I mean, I'll just share with you some of my favorite books. You mentioned Stephen Covey. So The Speed of Trust. There are a few books that have literally changed my life. And The Speed of Trust is one of those books that changed my life. And that's by Stephen Covey's son. I think he goes by Stephen R. Covey. So in Stephen Covey's original book, he tells a story about how he had his son, you know, he made his son responsible for the yard, and it was supposed to be green and clean. And if anybody doesn't know that story, I encourage you to read the original book. But that son who was in that story of the green and clean lawn, he wrote the book that the Speed of Trust. And that, as I say, I mean, that's literally a book that has changed my life. The other book that I'll mention, and again, it's another book that has changed my life, is called Instant Influence. I'm drawing a blank at the moment as to the gentleman's name. Maybe one of you can pull it up on the internet real quick. But Instant Influence is an unbelievably powerful book, and really what it's a method for helping people. It's a method for having influence on people, but the method is based on the philosophy that we all make the decisions we make for the exact same reason, our own. And so it's a method for helping the people that we're trying to influence discover their own reasons and their own motivation for wanting to do something. It's an incredibly powerful book. So I love it, and I reference it in the workshop I do. I reference it regularly. So off the top of my head, those are probably two books that kind of come to the top of mind. So there are others, but I'll save the others for one of our next podcasts, and you can ask a few other books that I would recommend very quickly. But those are probably the first two that come to mind.
So the author is Michael Pantalon, which is French for
Yes, Michael Pantalon. Yeah, Instant Influence. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything is going to be on the show notes. I believe this will be show 99. So WeTheSalesEngineers.com/show 99. We're one show short of show 100.
Which, by the way, is a huge accomplishment. So you have a lot to be proud of, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully show 100 will be as good as this one. I'm sure it will be.
Because nickname this one the great one, because it's show 99.
Awesome. All right, so last question of the day. What separates the great SEs from the okay or not so great?
Wow. I could just, I could just play it safe and say the 6 habits, but I won't do that. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna answer the question. I'm gonna answer the question this way. I'll answer it in the context of discovery. And I think what makes the difference between those SEs that excel at discovery versus don't are those that first and foremost they remember that the goal is to figure out, as best as they can, what do they need to know and do in order to put their best foot forward and the best foot forward of the company, right? That's number one. Is to enter every one of those conversations with clear focus on the goal is simply what do I need to demonstrate to get to technical win. That's number one. Number two, they need to engage and make it very clear that their motives are for the best interest of the customer. I am simply doing this so that I can best help you make the best decision possible, right? And then I think the third is some of the techniques, and frankly we haven't actually gotten into some of the techniques, and that's fine. I mean there's training, but to me the best the SEs that are best at discovery ask open-ended questions and clarifying questions, and they make it conversational. The mistakes that people see make is they have a list of 20 questions and they're just going to go through their list of 20 questions, right? What about this? Answer. What about this? Answer. What about this? And now I, as a prospect, do feel like I'm a witness. I'm being badgered as a witness. Right? I am now. I feel like this is not for my benefit at all. This is just for your benefit, so you can get the information you need, right? And I'll close with this one thought. I wrote this down. The one word that I want to hear in a technical discovery call is the word exactly. Because before I wrap it up, I'm going to say to my prospect, so what you're saying is, this is the objective, these are some of the problems you're facing, and you're looking for a solution that will do this. And if we can show you a platform or capability that would meet these needs, that would address what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we're looking for. And you guys know, I'm not just looking for, exactly. Like you know when somebody feels understood and heard. There's a certain tone of their voice. That's exactly what we're looking for. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you next week. I think you're going to like what we have to show you. That's a good sales engineer running a really good discovery call.
Right.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed we didn't even do a discovery right now, but I'm really impressed.
Right. But you understand that feeling, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. That's why I'm impressed. Like,
that's what I strive for.
Yeah, that's nice. All right. Well, that's a very profound way to close the show.
I think it's great.
I have a lot more questions for you. There's a lot of things that we didn't cover, and I think we were a little optimistic by thinking that 45 minutes is going to cover everything we need to know about discovery. So you'll be back, possibly in the future.
Well, and not only that, but you're about to hit 100 podcasts, which means the next milestone is 200 podcasts.
Yep.
So we've got plenty of time to, continue to tease out these ideas.
Yep. We're going to be around, and we look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Likewise. Thanks so much, guys. Really enjoy speaking with you.
Likewise. Bye.
Cheers.
All right. Well, that's it. That's our conversation with Chris. So between this episode and last episode, there's more than 2 hours of content from Chris on this podcast. What did you think, Benny?
I think it was great. I mean, I don't know. I think we did an okay job discovering a little bit more as to what discovery was all about. And yeah, Chris was fantastic. So many great insights, so many great takeaways too on things to maybe take into future calls that I do in my job, you may do in yours, and the listeners will go into in theirs. I thought it was a great one. Yeah.
The funny part is, like, it was a full hour of this conversation, and still we didn't go as much in depth as I wanted to. Like, we didn't talk about the techniques of discovery. We just, we talked about the basics of discovery. Maybe at some point in the future, we'll get Chris again. Actually, he will be back here next week for the show 100, which is exciting, at least for me. I don't know about Benny. Benny's shaking his head. He looks excited.
Yeah, very excited.
He looks like he's had a lot of caffeine at 8:30 at night.
I don't know. Ottawa Air, I think, has a little extra something in it today. But no, yeah, I'm really looking forward to show 100. I mean, 10 is my favorite number, and there's 10 of them in there. So yeah, I'm 10 times as excited as I normally would be for the show. Sorry.
Anyways, I don't know how to bring it back. This is it. That's the end of our show. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Chris White. If you didn't, you get to tell him next week. I'm sure you did, so don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. But next week we'll have show 100 with Chris, John, Kerr, and Greg Holmes.
And on top of that too, so to that point, this panel of John, Chris, and Greg it's such a privilege to have them on. Really looking forward to the show, and yeah, I can't wait to have you all back next week.
All right, let's not wait. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye, SE Nation.